Howdy y'all, I'm Anna with Always Right, and I have failed NaNoWriMo like 4 or 5 years now. So let me share with you some pitfalls that I ran into so that hopefully you and a little bit of me, we can avoid these pitfalls this NaNoWriMo. So if you don't know what NaNoWriMo is, here's the quick and dirty of it. It's National Novel Writing Month. You're trying to write 50,000 words in 30 days, aka you're trying to write 50,000 words for the month of November. Yes, for Americans, it makes it a little hard because there's that slight holiday right there near the end called Thanksgiving. And you're probably gonna be spending that time with your loved ones. By loved ones, I mean your book. Without further ado, let me share with you some of the reasons I have failed Nano in the past and things for you to look out for as you're writing your story. First pitfall, first kind of error you can make this NaNoWriMo is not having an official NaNoWriMo account. They're free. The website is free. I will have it linked down below so you have no excuse not to look at it, not to create an account. Now, the reason I'm pushing for you to create the account, it gives you a good kind of at a glance just projection of your writing. It projects like based on your average words per day, how long it'll take you to complete your novel. It's very helpful. It is very helpful. Also, if you do end up winning NaNoWriMo, there are so many coupons and so many just like codes that you can use that will get you free stuff or, you know, good coupons on things you may like Scrivener. In the past, they've had coupons for Scrivener for people that participated in NaNoWriMo, didn't win it, and like better coupons for those that did participate in NaNoWriMo and did complete or win NaNoWriMo. Next thing, have an idea what you want to write. Outlining is like optional, but you should know before you even start November 1st what you want to write. And with that concept, you should know going into NaNoWriMo that a large chunk of the writing you're going to be doing for NaNoWriMo is going to be the fun and games section, delivering on the premise, whatever you want to call it. Promise of the premise. Yeah, promise of the premise? Promise of the premise. Whatever. So you should definitely know a little bit before diving face first into writing, especially if this is your first novel. Another tidbit of advice, and this is something I wish my younger self had known, do not consume alcohol or consume drugs before you start writing. And I'm not saying this because your writing's gonna get weird, man. I'm saying it because you don't want to create that barrier in your mind that says, oh, I can't write if I'm sober. I have to be drunk. I have to be high to really be creative. No, try not to drink anything. Try not to do any drugs for at least the first 2 weeks, if not all of NaNoWriMo. Try to do it sober. You can drink once your words are done for the day, but before then, I highly encourage you not to drink, not to do drugs before you sit down to write, because you can write that book. You do not need alcohol. Another pitfall I've seen a lot of people kind of trip into is not communicating with your partner. Going into NaNoWriMo, if you are living with someone, whether that's roommates, whether that's your parents, grandparents, significant other, whatever, you need to communicate with them and say, hey, I may not be as present. Communicate with them, let them know what you're doing. No, I'm not saying that way you can be like a jerk or, you know, be bitchy to your roommate, significant other, whatever. Just that way you can be like, look, I told you, you know, back at the end of October, early November that I was doing this project and I'm very serious about it. So I can't go out with you tonight, I'm sorry. Another thing to do before NaNoWriMo to help yourself is to get all of your large monthly chores done like at the end of October instead of at the beginning of November or the end of November. Large chores I can think of, you know, like changing your air filters, change your air filters, please. They're probably gross and it makes your energy bill go up. You know, cleaning your Keurig, cleaning your coffee machine. I don't know if y'all do that monthly or weekly. I am not a standard to live by, obviously. Try to get as many large, like monthly chores done at the beginning of the month or like the end of October. next pitfall is authors like pausing, looking at their work, and being unable to continue writing because what they're writing is garbage. Congratulations, you're writing a first draft. This happens. This is what they are. They're garbage. A famous author once said, and I might remember to look this up before I post the video, but a famous author once said that a first draft is just you telling yourself the story. This is you just word vomiting, trying to get a first draft done. For a lot of writers, completing a first draft is never something that's quite achieved. A lot of aspiring authors get caught on the first draft and they just never finish the first draft. That's one reason that NaNoWriMo was started, was to force you to complete a first draft or get words on the page. I don't mean this in a mean way at all. If you were a published author, whether that was self-published or traditionally published, unless you're like one of the rare few like Donna Tartt or George R.R. Martin, the expectation from your agent, your publisher, or your readers, your reader base, if you're self-published, is that you're constantly writing, you're constantly working on the next book. For serious authors, NaNoWriMo is like a normal month for them. And I'm not saying that to dissuade you, I'm just saying this is just how some people work. I'm not saying like if you do this or that, you know, that's gonna be your life. It's constantly working, constantly writing, but it's just easier for them to write it because they've done it before. They've completed that marathon before. They know the pitfalls. Next, kind of little tidbit of information is set time limits on your phone. Yes, put parental controls on yourself. Kind of not joking. You can do like the Apple one where you set a timer where you can only be on an app for like 30 minutes. I mean, there's a pitfall there because you can extend that time as many times as you want, but you do have to do those extra button presses and it does pull you out of the app when the timer comes up. But just be very aware and try to cut down as much as possible on any social media, any like games, any reading like Reddit or anything like that. Try to be mindful and know that you're trying to complete a marathon and you don't need to be sitting on the curb by the water station at this marathon on your phone. You gotta be running the race. Come on. If you're not running the race, you're not, you know, if you're not writing, you're not writing. You're probably not gonna get NaNoWriMo done as easily, as quickly, or even at all. Next tidbit, if you have, let's say, video games that you play and you do not make a living playing these video games, remove them from your computer or your phone. I do this every single NaNoWriMo. I uninstall Overwatch, I uninstall pretty much like all my games from my computer, and it just totally removes the temptation. If you don't think you can bring yourself to do that, remove the shortcuts so it's more difficult for you to find and launch the apps or the games that you like to play. It's amazing how much time you can find if you cut out, well, like the phone, like social media, if you cut out those digital distractions. Next little tidbit of advice from a seasoned failure at NaNoWriMo is to get some rest. You're not gonna write well if you're tired, and being tired and stressed from having to reach this daily goal of writing are not going to end well for you, not likely. You're just gonna break down probably, you're just gonna kind of hate writing, you're gonna hate your life. So, please get some rest. I don't know if that involves naps. I don't know if that involves getting 7-8 hours of sleep, but if you can possibly, get rest. Also, don't write on your bed. If you have a chance to write at like a dining table, like a breakfast nook table, a card table, try to write at a table. Try to write at a setting where it is not comfortable to go to sleep, because especially at night, if you're writing at night, you're writing on your bed, you're gonna get tired and there's a chance that you're gonna go to sleep before you hit your goals. So that's another little bonus tidbit. Next pitfall I've seen is people going back and editing and critiquing what they've written during NaNoWriMo. This is one of my big pieces of advice for anyone that's writing a first draft, but especially during NaNoWriMo. Do not look back at what you've written. Do not look back at what you've written. You are writing 50,000 words in 30 days. It should be relatively fresh in your mind. If you go back and you look at what you've written, you will be so disheartened because guess what? It's a first draft and it's gonna read like a first draft. Also, foreshadowing and tying up loose ends is for your editing future self. Do not worry about foreshadowing. Do not worry about loose ends in your first draft. The beauty of a second draft is you know what the entire story is. You can pick things that might happen and throw in one-liners that seem kind of, just casually placed earlier in the book. You can do foreshadowing in the edits. That's the beauty of editing, is you know the entire story. You know exactly what happens to your characters, and you can go from there. Kind of going back on that, if you find yourself going back and rereading stuff you've written, I highly recommend, whether it's on Scrivener or you create a new Word document or a new Google document or a new notes pad or whatever the heck you're doing, I highly suggest you write down features for characters. If you can't remember if Cameron has green eyes or if he has hazel eyes. And so you find yourself regularly checking back. You don't know if her left arm was broken or if it was her right arm. Oh, I can't remember. Write that down. Write it down so that you're not having to read back through your work. Number one, that's taking time away from your writing by having to reread passages and find where you had previously described a character or, an injury or a consistency. Also, you can edit it and fix it. Total duh moment. But if you're the type that wants to be as consistent as possible during your first draft, write it down somewhere. I know on Scrivener, I personally put all of my bonus details in the notes section so that I can click through and just skim the notes and see any kind of pertinent information that may be a carry through for the story, such as their left arm being broken, or them having a limp on their right leg. Just make it easier on yourself. Another pitfall that certain people have fallen into is getting upsetty spaghetti because your favorite author tuber, gee golly, was able to complete NaNoWriMo in 5-10 days. How do you do that? What? Can't relate. Oh my God, I can never be as good as them. I might as well just quit right now. Stop it. If you're the type of person that spirals or feels like they're not able to keep up or is just competitive and gets disheartened if there's too much of a difference between you and your quote competition, don't go on AuthorTube. Don't watch NaNoWriMo vlogs. There's plenty of other videos on AuthorTube that are not NaNoWriMo centered during November. If you start feeling that way, seeing that Kate Kavanaugh, has written 30,000 words in the first 10 days or something crazy, or your friend Jessie on the NaNoWriMo site has 5,000 words a day and is able to finish it in 10 days, and you're just girl, I'm at 4,000 words, how? Try to kind of put basically blinders on yourself and just focus on your own book, because NaNoWriMo is not a competition. Everyone's struggling pretty much, and we're all just trying to write. It's just some people may have a book planned out, or they may have practice, like Kate Kavanaugh. She writes basically for her living. They have a level of ease with writing that you may not have. And you want to know how you get that level of ease like Kate Kavanaugh has, or like Jessie has? By writing more. It is so hard to be oh my God, but she's able to do this many words a day and they're able to do this many words a day. I can't keep up. NaNoWriMo is not about keeping up. NaNoWriMo is about writing. It's okay to fail NaNoWriMo. I've written books outside of NaNoWriMo. I've had a blast, I'm not a failure because I've never won NaNoWriMo. I'm just a writer that doesn't have a schedule that works with NaNoWriMo, especially the years I've tried. or I just didn't have the confidence to do it. I didn't have the direction, I didn't have the drive at the time. And that's okay. That is totally fine. You do not have to win NaNoWriMo. As long as you're writing and you're learning and you're having fun. Well, except for like the last week. Last week's usually hell. But beside that, as long as you're writing, that's the goal of it. Come on, let's go with it. Okay, on a less sappy note, I've got two more pieces of advice for you if you're doing NaNoWriMo. Know that 50,000 words usually isn't a complete novel. It depends on your drafting style as well. Like, you may do your first drafts with minimal description, or with minimal whatever world building, and go in later drafts to add in, fill in those, flesh out the scenes, flesh out the characters. You do you. For an average author, your book length is going to be between 70 and 80,000. If you write sci-fi fantasy, those numbers are obviously going to be a smidge higher in the 90 to 100,000 range. Just know this NaNoWriMo that you don't actually have to complete the novel to hit the 50,000 words. 50,000 words in Feathers, which was one of the books that I've completed recently. Recently is a really relative term for me, evidently. 50,000 words was not even getting into the third act. It was still the second act for me. And my last piece of advice, and this is just general writing advice that I feel works for anyone that's trying to write a book. Don't end your writing session with a new chapter for tomorrow's writing session. So that means don't leave yourself with a blank page to start with the next day. It is super hard to get started and to work on a chapter when you don't have any words on it, nothing to build off. You're starting fresh. You're setting yourself up for a lot of stress. So try to get at least, 2 to 5 paragraphs into a new chapter before you end your writing session. Also, it's okay to write more than the 1,667 words a day if you're on a roll. So, did I miss any? Did you fall into one maybe in a previous year that I didn't mention here? I'd love to hear about it. So thank you once again for liking, commenting, subscribing. I'm gonna be doing NaNoWriMo again this year, despite my better judgment. What's one more year of failing? Just that much more to learn. Oh God. I hope y'all have a lovely Nano, or if you're not doing NaNoWriMo, I hope that these pitfalls help you when you're writing your book. And as always, let's get writing.